What's up, everybody? It's Rick, and welcome back to Only Football. Today's episode, we are doing Week 5 recap of the NFL. We're going to get into running back of the week. We're going to give you guys our top five, and as always, we're going to end it with the chives from Kyle. All right, let's get it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast. My name is Kyle, and that's Rick.
I'm Rick, that's Kyle.
And we're going to talk about a Week 5. All right, we're going to start in London. I just want to say off the bat, I got this one right, and you got this one wrong. I was trying not to. I really was. I didn't want
Fuck you, Kyle.
I was so excited about starting this one off.
I hate you.
Hey, you're gonna have your fair shot of. We're gonna have to talk about some hard things here today.
Yeah, that's true.
But luckily for you, we don't have to talk about the Bears because we watched that on Thursday night. You can check out our recap already posted. But we will start with the game I was just talking about because I'm really excited to see what you have to say about this one. This was the game that happened in London, where the Jacksonville Jaguars actually beat Buffalo. And a lot of people didn't see that coming. Did you?
I totally saw this coming. No, I'm kidding. I had the Bills. I had the Bills winning this one. And look, had I known that McDermott wasn't going to go to London until Thursday night, overnight, and land in London on Friday, I don't know, man. I probably would have picked the Jags. But look, the Jags, dude, they did a good job, all right? They, again, we talked about the Bills not arriving until Friday morning. The Jags looked good because the Bills punted their first 4 possessions. They had 29 yards of offense in the first quarter. They didn't get a first down until 12 seconds left in the first.
Right.
Like, that's not the Bills offense we know in the first quarter or just in general. But late in the game, Josh Allen still worked his magic. 359 yards, 3 total tuds, an interception, but the Jags were just better today. Trevor Lawrence passed for a touchdown, 315 yards. Etienne had a great game, 136 rush yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Jags defense finished it off when Diggs tried a lateral at the end of the game, fumbled it. Jags were able to recover. Jags, 2 weeks in a row in London, 2 wins in a row. Jags look to be coming back.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people were riding pretty high after what Buffalo did to Miami, and things were, all was well in paradise. And we even mentioned how, Stephon Diggs everything's good because, there was all this problems in the offseason, and then all of a sudden he goes out there and he's balling out, and we're like, I guess everything's fine. But then you see him visibly upset after the game. And I got to say, I think this is a good sign. And I heard someone else say this today, And I was thinking exactly what they said right before they said it. And they said, well, guess what? Stephon Diggs had 8 receptions for 121 yards and had a touchdown and had 11 targets. So this is kind of a good sign, I think. It's like Stephon Diggs wasn't mad that he wasn't getting the ball. He wasn't mad that he didn't get a touchdown or yards or targets. He was mad that Buffalo lost. And to me, that's what you want. You want your players to be invested in the success of the team, not just individual success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the Bills, I really think this all comes down to what you said earlier. You know, Jacksonville gets to stay out there. They're already acclimated. They're having a great time. They're team bonding.
Yep.
And then I believe they're coming off a win as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, Buffalo decides not to leave till Friday. I don't even know how you do that, because you and I know how that goes. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we'll just, everything will be fine. No, it's not. It's never fine when you jump 8 hours.
Yeah, and one thing that, because again, you said it, we know how that struggle is, but one thing that stood out to me was that Devin McCourty, former Patriot, said that they would do that quite a bit, was leave on Fridays to get to a London game, you know, to play Sunday, or leave Thursday morning, whatever it was. I was just like, but how do you acclimate that quickly? I was like, it just doesn't make sense. You're tired. The Bills looked rough in that game. From all the clips that I saw, they looked rough in that game to start the game off. But maybe just some players and some people are a little bit better to acclimate a little bit faster. So credit to, you know, to the guys who could. But, you know, Josh Allen did definitely step it up there late. And I do agree with the Stephon Diggs frustration there at the end. You're frustrated because you know you're better than this loss. You're better than this offensive output. After what you did to Miami and what you've been doing since the week 1 loss, you get frustrated because you're like, you know what? We should have won this one. So, yes, I agree. The frustration shown on that side, much better than what it was last season in the playoffs.
Yeah, and our next game is really interesting because the Texans have exceeded anyone's expectations.
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought, oh, you know, the Texans aren't for real. But then they beat Dallas. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
They beat Dallas. And it was like, whoa, what happened to Dallas? And then Mike Tomlin came in next and got embarrassed. Okay. Now, we knew that Ritter was undefeated at home.
Since high school. Yeah.
And he is still undefeated at home since high school. So I wasn't shocked because I picked the Falcons, but part of me was thinking, man, this Houston team, they're not just they haven't let us down yet. Like, I feel like even though they lost this game, they still haven't let us down, right? Like, Houston didn't have a week where they went out and, oh, we're the real Houston Texans and got destroyed or anything like that. They played a very close competitive game against a good football team on the road, and they lost by 2 points. Do you agree with that?
I do. It's just the thing is the Texans for 3 quarters were only able to get 4 field goals. They didn't score their first touchdown until the 4th quarter. And you said it, though. They played a very tough, for the second year in a row, a tough Atlanta Falcons team. This isn't an easy win for the Falcons, even with Ritter quarterback. But the Falcons defense did their job in those 3 quarters. You know, it almost reminded me of the Pittsburgh and Ravens game, right? For 3 quarters, a defense held, and then in the 4th quarter kind of let go. In this case, though, the Falcons were able to beat them. One of the big things, too, obviously Ritter being undefeated at home, but 7 receptions for Kyle Pitts, 87 yards. London had a couple receptions there. Like, those were their leaders in passing, and that's exactly what needed to happen. We've said it in the weeks coming up to this, that Kyle Pitts and Drake London, outside of Bijan Robinson, need to be a focus in this offense, and that's exactly what happened. So they were able to get it to them for a few receptions, and they ended up winning. But also on the Texans, right? They were able to get the touchdown there in the end, but their offense kind of sputtered there in the first 3 quarters. Stroud, has yet to throw a pick. And to me, through 5 weeks as a rookie quarterback starting, that's fucking impressive, man.
Yeah, it is. And Riddler coming back into this game, and you're not going to believe this, but I came on during the middle of the season. It was like a mid-season thing where Arthur Smith said, we believe that Riddler can be the guy. And the guy was in quotations. And I did a podcast about it immediately. And I was like, you know what? I don't think he's lying. I don't believe he's lying, because he does not have to go out of his way and say that. They were seeing things from camp where they were like, and even the insiders that were at the Falcons facility during the offseason were like, he is able to do things that he could not do last year. He is reading defenses differently than he did last year. He's more calm. This is a big win against a hot Texans team. Whether, it sounds funny, but it's true. They were rolling every team they were playing, and they came in. Riddler showed, he displayed that he can maybe improve even more. Maybe he had a game where he reminded people, my ceiling can be a little higher than it's been. You haven't seen me play very well. I understand that, but I'm getting better every week. Do you think that this game changes your opinion on Riddler at all?
No, not really. But what I will say is his improvements have made me not necessarily write him off yet. I don't think he's going to be a long-term type of quarterback. I think he's going to be a very successful backup one day. I feel like he's going to be a journeyman quarterback, right? He's going to go bounce from team to team. And this game, he did really well. Let's credit him. What did he have? He had 329 yards, 2 total touchdowns. And again, he got it to his playmakers in Pitts and London. So while I think this is a very good game he had, I don't think it's going to translate into longevity for Desmond Ridder.
All right, that's fair enough. Well, our next game is actually, if you flip the scores, it's the same.
Week 5.
20, my bad. 24-42, not particularly, not that close. Mm-hmm. So the Panthers, I don't know, man. I didn't expect them to win this game. They didn't win this game. And Detroit is, I think, rolling right now, like a full-fledged, like last year Philly team. This team might be the only team that can beat San Francisco. And I know that sounds crazy, but this Detroit team is able to, doesn't it remind you of San Francisco, kind of how they can do whatever they want and they're so physical and they stop the run and they do all the fundamentals right and they're tough and they beat you down and they take the life out of you. And then, by the way, they'll score 40 somehow. And you're just like, they scored 40? It just kind of feels like a new San Francisco to me.
Yeah, Detroit, man. This went pretty much the way I expected it, except for the amount of points that Carolina scored. I didn't think they were going to score 24, but 6 touchdowns from the Lions. 2 of them from Laporta, 2 more from Reynolds, touchdown from Monty, and Jared Goff even rushed for 1. Like, the defense, 2 interceptions, a sack, 2 tackles for loss. Like, you saw that interception from Hutchinson, too, that one-hander. That was impressive, like trying to get a screen there from Bryce Young, but he was like, nope, my ball.
Yeah.
Very impressive for the Lions. Only 10 points for the Panthers in 3 quarters. Bryce Young didn't have a bad day. 241 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Thielen was his leading receiver, 107 yards and a touchdown. And kind of like what I said about Jordan Love during our stream and our instant reaction, I like that he's being aggressive and taking shots. But the Lions, man, like you said, and like I said during our predictions episode, they're about to go on a tear. Just their next 3 games. Tampa Bay Bucks in Tampa. At the Ravens, Vegas, then they get their bye in week 9. Those 3 games, especially the way Baltimore looked, they're very, very winnable for this Detroit Lions team. Very, very winnable. So they're about to go, I think, on a tear into their bye week and even after their bye week. We'll see how it is after their bye week because they do play the Chargers in LA. But yeah, man, the Detroit Lions look fucking unstoppable right now. And all credit, really all credit goes to Dan Campbell and the way they're able to buy into what he's selling.
Yeah, and do you think, as far as the NFC is concerned right now, that the Lions would be um, ahead of Philadelphia? Because Philly, they did more last year, and they've proven that they can win big games and all of that. But at the same time, they've kind of had, some midseason stuff. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But do
Mm-hmm.
you think that the Lions are kind of the team to beat?
In regards to Philly, maybe. Yeah, I think Detroit is starting to take that second spot under San Francisco, right? And you said that they seem to be the only team that can maybe beat San Francisco. I don't necessarily believe that yet, but it's still a long season to go. Detroit has a lot more to do this season. But as far as Philly, man, I think they're neck and neck, dude. Honestly, like if the Eagles didn't go to the Super Bowl last year, I probably would put the Lions over the Eagles right now, but I think they're getting close. I really do think they're getting close.
All right. The Titans were coming off a really big win, a dominating win at home against the Bengals. They go on to lose in Indianapolis, a game where there was Anthony Richardson exiting because of a shoulder injury. Gardner Minshew comes in the game, one of the best backups in the NFL, brings this one home for the Colts. What's your immediate takeaway from this one?
I hate that Anthony Richardson was hurt. I really hate it because he ended the day 9 for 12 and 98 yards, so he was looking good. Injury towards the end of the second quarter sucks because you start to get into that territory where the best ability is availability, right? Like, and this is like his second or third injury in a very early season in his rookie year. So that is worrisome. But luckily you have Gardner Minshew to come in and manage this game. And we have to credit Zach Moss. Former Bill, he came into this game and just absolutely destroyed the Titans defense. 165 rush yards, 2 touchdowns. And credit to the Colts defense because they held Henry to only 43 yards on 13 rushes, picked off Tannehill, got a sack. Tyjae Spears was the only touchdown the Titans had, and that seemed to be in garbage time, I believe, or at least late in the third quarter. But it's tough to see Richardson out again with an injury. But Zach Moss did really well. They just paid Jonathan Taylor. Gardner Minshew is a very well-suited backup. The Colts are a decent team right now, and that's kind of what all I'll say. Tannehill and the Titans looking a little old, man. They're looking a little old.
Yeah, do you think that when this Colts team in the division, are you thinking about a playoff berth at all? Because they do seem like they're really feisty, and they just got Jonathan Taylor back. I know you made a point that Zach Moss had an incredible game, and he was playing like his job was on the line probably.
Yeah.
And all they might be proving is that when Jonathan Taylor gets rolling, this is going to be a very good 1-2 punch. Like I put it here in the other title, the Colts finally out-toughed the Titans because Mike Vrabel, always the guy that's going to beat you in the trenches with Derrick Henry and out-tough you. And the Colts out-toughed them. The Colts out-toughed the Titans, man. They beat them at their own game.
Yeah.
And they're forming an identity before our eyes of a running football team that can beat you in the trenches. How far do you think that can carry the Colts? Because my personal belief is that's really cool, but with some of these other AFC teams that are able to do so much more, I'm wondering really if they have kind of a low ceiling until they get real threats on the outside. Like that's why they were talking about drafting Marvin Harrison, yada, yada. So yeah, like, do you think the Colts could compete for anything this year?
Oh man, I don't know. It's tough with Jacksonville getting these 2 wins in a row, right? And looking at their schedule, they got Jacksonville again next week, and then they go to the Browns, then they go to the Saints, then they have a nice couple games against the Panthers and the Patriots. But they've played teams tough this year. The last 3 games, obviously a win in Tennessee. They won by 7 points. They lost to the Rams by 6, and then they beat the Ravens by a field goal. So they're playing teams tough. And honestly, if you're a Colts fan, you are looking at this like, holy shit, man, maybe we can be a wild card team. right? Because a lot of us said Jacksonville's going to win the division. Jacksonville struggled early, but now Jacksonville seems to be getting on the right path. But if you're a Colts fan, I think you're looking at this and being like, ooh, this might be wild card territory. So I do like their chances at it. Do I think they'll get it? No, because the AFC is loaded. The AFC is way too loaded for them to get in, to sneak in.
Yeah, that's a total fair point. And one of the teams that makes it loaded is the Miami Dolphins, and they're a real powerhouse, man. When you go play them, it's like an Olympic track meet, dude. Like, it's insane. And then they just added another piece. I don't know if you saw the Josh McDaniels or the Mike McDaniels interview where he's like, "You want me to say it, don't you?" And he's like, "He's fast."
Fuck Claypool. Fuck you, Claypool. Fuck you.
Yeah, so I know it's personal, but it was just funny to me because it's like, man, you guys are so funny. You just want me to say he's fast. He's like, yeah, we got him because he's fast. And the thing is, Chase Claypool, he wanted to pretend he was that guy in Chicago, but he really wasn't that guy anyway. Nope. So it was really his own ego. So I think it might be beneficial that he's now with a Hall of Famer because his ego is going to be in check because he is the third best receiver now. He is not the guy, right? And not only that, I would take Darnell Mooney over Claypool any day. But anyway, so this Dolphins team is continuing to roll, right? They beat the Giants. The Giants is just another disappointing loss. We've kind of become accustomed to these from the Giants. It just hasn't been, good year. Do you think that this was really a necessary kind of way to move off that Buffalo loss?
Yes. The Miami Dolphins, I don't want to say they necessarily needed this game against the Giants, but man, did it fucking help to come off that loss against the Bills, right? And Tua didn't look exactly great in this game. He threw a pick six. He threw another interception. The Giants defense did force some fumbles. But at the end of the day, Dolphins scored 31. I had them scoring 35. Almost, this is kind of exactly how I had this game going, right? Giants only scored 16. Achane, Mostert, each rushed for a touchdown. Tyreek, 181 yards receiving. Dolphins defense had 7 more sacks against this just garbage Giants offensive line.
This offensive line that plays like
dog shit. So they didn't necessarily need this game, but man, it was really nice to have, especially for the defense, right? The only touchdown that the Giants got was on the defense. It was on a pick six. And, we were streaming it. That's their first touchdown in the first half this year. That is sad for that Giants defense. Daniel Jones did go out with an injury too. And that's your $40 million a year quarterback. So rough. Saquon Barkley, I don't think he did anything in this game. You got Waller not doing much, especially when your quarterback's injured. Your O-line's letting up 7 more sacks after they lit up I think a record 11 against the Seattle Seahawks the week prior. Dude, this Giants team is just a mess. Dable, for everything he did last year, is just dog shit this year.
Absolutely.
It's fine. I didn't set you up for that one. My bad. But he is coaching like dog shit. So Giants team, Giants fans, I'm sorry. This sucks. I love tasting your tears as a Bears fan. It's just a New York thing. I love it. But 2 in the Miami Dolphins, kind of a get right game after that Bills game. But Giants, you guys are in a world of shit.
Yeah, and the only person in more of a world of shit and bigger problems and record-setting problems is going to be the game we're going to talk about right now, and that's the Saints handing Bill Belichick a big fat goose egg, a big just zero, just nothing, not even a tease, not even a pocket pool, nothing at all, man, just nothing. Zero points. And you look at Mac Jones and you think, oh God, how could it get any worse, right? Because when we did this prediction, I said the words, Mac Jones is awful. Do you remember this whole
Yes.
conversation? And you said, yeah,
Yes.
he is awful. And we were like, dude, like, he's missing open players. He is throwing bad balls. And look, he gets benched again for Bailey Zappi. Zappi has to come into the game. I don't even know what they're going to do moving forward. Do you think that they're going to – I think they're going to start Bailey Zappi next week. I'm just going to say that, and then I'll let you go.
So, man, and Bill does not like to do shit like this. He does not like to go off one performance, but this is 2 performances in a row. Mac Jones looked like absolute dog shit. So, will he go with Bailey Zappi? I don't know, man. I think fans in New England, they're saying, yes, 100% go with Bailey Zappi. Mac Jones is not the guy. One wild card appearance, he's not the guy. He has not been the guy since then. I think Bill Belichick is going to go with him at least one more time and probably bench him after that if he has another shitty outing. The Saints team shut out the Patriots in Belichick's worst home loss ever. David Carr, after kind of being injured there for, about a week or so, threw for 183 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kamara rushed for a score. Oh, and by the way, Michael Thomas is still in the NFL, made an appearance, 4 receptions for 65 yards. The Saints defense is pretty damn dominant.
Shit.
And yet, no, not dog shit, actually. They're pretty damn dominant against this really bad Patriots team. 2 interceptions, 2 sacks, held Mac Jones to 110 yards passing. This Saints team is as confusing as they come. But they get a very, very good win here in Foxborough. In Foxborough. And I think this might be just some more NFC South, fuel to the fire that Derek Carr and the Saints are going to win this NFC South.
No doubt. Definitely going to be, just 1 week removed from everybody throwing the Saints away. Everyone's going to be back in on the Saints now. 100%. Well, then let's just turn to one last question about New England, and that is this rock bottom?
100% rock bottom. I think, and I think I heard this stat earlier on part of my take. The amount of games that Tom Brady lost in his entire career as a New England Patriot at home, Mac Jones already has that. Or Bill Belichick already has that at home since moving on from Tom Brady.
Oh my God.
They already have that many fucking losses at home in 4 seasons or so than the entire Tom Brady era in New England. This is 100% rock bottom. They get shut out for the first time in my memory ever. You know what I mean? Like, this is 100% rock bottom. I feel so bad for Patriots fans, but then I think, oh no, you guys have 6 Super Bowls. Go fuck yourself. This is what it feels like to be a Bears fan. So there you go.
Everybody needs a little bit of reality once in a while. You know what I mean? Yep. I remember watching somebody win a Super Bowl, a Patriots fan, somebody that was in the Navy, and then he just went on with the night. Dude, you just won the Super Bowl. you like just whatever. All right.
Yeah.
So another game. I said the stats before the game. I'll mention them one more time. Mike Tomlin, 55-31-4 against the spread as an underdog, and in this series, the underdog, when the line is 3 or more, has won 11 straight in a row, and now you can make that. Wait, what's one more?
12?
12. Thank you.
Kyle's math is
dog shit. I'm actually pretty good at numbers. I just forgot what number I said. You know, when you're thinking about 3 things.
Dude, I had this game going in the Ravens' favor. 100%. I had the Ravens beating the Steelers. You've seen what the Steelers have done on offense these past few weeks with Matt Canada behind there, right? And all the criticism going to Matt Canada. Matt Canada sucks. Get him out of here. They don't deserve to win. And the Ravens hold the Steelers to 3 points for 3 quarters. And then the 4th quarter comes and it's like they forgot what the fuck NFL football defense was, because they let up 14 points. They were able to hold off a 2-point conversion after the touchdown to George Pickens. But it's like the Ravens forgot how to play football. You had Lamar throwing interceptions, I believe, there towards the end, and then get sacked at the end of the game by TJ Watt to seal the win for the Steelers. Pickett, though, with that ballsy throw to Pickens in the fourth quarter for 41 yards, and I think it was on a third or second down, something like that. Like, dude, ballsy. But Lamar played fine. I think Lamar played fine. There was just a bunch of drops from Andrews, Zay Flowers, and a couple other people. They were dropping balls left and right. Aguilar had a bad drop. Like, his receivers were not doing him any favors. And if they had, this would probably be a different outcome with a higher score. So I had the Ravens winning, but the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, man, that defense and Mike Tomlin they're just solid all around.
And I know you had the Ravens in your top 5, and not to spoil anything right now, but the Ravens had a chance to win this game. They were in the red zone quite a few times, and they weren't able. The Steelers defense, stepped up and they turned the ball over, and they were really physical. And TJ Watt was insane.
TJ Watt, yep.
But at the end of the day, man, I'm gonna go there, and you're gonna get mad at me.
Uh-oh.
This is who they paid $200 and whatever, the most money ever. And to me, I was like, there's no way that I would have done this deal, because Lamar's what year he's already peaked. I really do believe that he's already peaked.
Insane.
I think, dude, they have given him everything. And the Steelers hold you to 10 points. Dude, you are getting paid more than Patrick Mahomes. You're getting paid. Do you think Mahomes would have had a game like this? Like, maybe one. But it seems like every time Lamar's favored to win, he shrinks. And when he's an underdog and he reminds everybody who he is, and I'll give it to him, he has that game. But people that are really like that don't have this many games like this, in my opinion. And I don't think they're having buyer's remorse, because this is the best case scenario for the Ravens, is that Lamar Jackson is their quarterback. But going into the middle of last season, when I was like, oh, I would rather have Justin Fields than Lamar Jackson. Like, if people were really that high on Lamar Jackson, no one would have done that. Like, imagine someone was like, I'll give you Mahomes for, Justin Fields. You'd be like, absolutely. But when it came to Lamar Jackson, people were like, I don't know. This guy might have a better, higher ceiling. And Lamar needs to play better. I'm going to say it. He knows it. He threw a bad interception, late in the game. He turned the ball over. He fell apart.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think he's peaked. He's got 8 total touchdowns, 4 passing, 4 rushing. And I know you hate rushing quarterbacks.
No, I don't. I love them. I
know,
love them.
But I know you don't like that as like a stat to throw out for a quarterback. You love the athletic ability for sure, but you're like,
I just care about W's. I don't care if they run for 200 yards a game. I really don't.
But the Ravens, what does that put the Ravens at? That puts the Ravens at 3-2. They're still in a winning season. So you're telling me, let's just have a quick little
argument of the week with
I'm
Kyle.
I'm going to give you a quick question. Are you taking the Ravens at 3-2 or the Steelers at 3-2? If you had to pick
the Ravens
team to be okay. So
wait, one team to what?
One team to continue. One team who's going to have the better 2023 season. The Ravens at 3-2 or the Steelers?
Well,
at 3-2?
I picked the Steelers to start the season to have a better season than the Ravens. But Matt Canada and the offensive problems have been concerning, and I didn't expect those. For that reason, I'm going with the Ravens. But it doesn't make me confident in the Ravens. It just makes me, not confident in Matt Canada and the Steelers.
But now, Kenny Pickett or Lamar Jackson?
Lamar.
100%. So when we talk about this game, yes, Lamar Jackson was held to 10 points, but like I said earlier, his receivers did him no favors there. 10 points, sure. Should be more points, and to be honest, probably should be a little bit more rushing from Lamar and use his athletic ability to get that dub, but his receivers did him no favor too. So, can we blame Lamar 100%? No. I'm going to give him 50% of the blame here, 50% on the receivers, and let's be honest, man, that defense, they held for 3 quarters but you can't expect them to hold the Steelers for the entire game to only 3 points. And that was a huge issue for the offensive play calling for the Ravens.
I agree. And I'm, like I said, I'm not going to bash Lamar because of one bad game.
Yeah.
But when you set up Lamar the way he was set up, I don't think anybody predicted it going like how it went on Sunday. I mean, you bring in, OBJ and all these Zay Flowers, and you use your draft picks, and it's like, all right, now you have no excuses. And we all agreed on that. We all had an understanding that Lamar was out of excuses, and then they paid him and said, no, we're going to give you our vote of confidence. And, here we are 5 weeks later, 10 points in a bad game. And it's like, okay, it's just one game. But the Ravens, to me, just don't look that great. They don't look.
They had a bad game. I think
no, like this season. Like this season. Right? Because I think they beat the Bengals, but the Bengals were, they didn't have a mobile Joe Burrow. And then, where do you think that they're going to have like some kind of mid-season spark that's going to or is this it? Because we've seen this Ravens every year for the last decade. And that is what they're not paying for. They're paying him to be spectacular and to take this team to the Super Bowl. And I just don't see this as a Super Bowl team right now.
Yeah, and I mean, they beat the Texans convincingly week 1. The Bengals, sure, they beat them by a field goal. They lost really kind of ugly game against the Colts, but then they go and destroy the Browns 28-3 without Deshaun Watson. Yes, let's say that for sure. But their only 2 losses are the Colts and Steelers right now. 2 teams, one team, the Colts, who's hoping for a wild card. The Steelers hoping to get offense going. I mean, not 2 terrible losses, right? So I get the not impressed, especially with paying Lamar and especially with getting him weapons. But I also think we got to give this a little bit the rest of the season to see exactly how this turns out, because he has had impressive games and he's had close wins, but it's week 5. You're going to have this shit happen. I don't think anybody expected the Ravens to be undefeated through 5 weeks.
Yeah, probably not. And I'm looking
except Ravens fans.
Raven fans definitely thought it. And right now the Ravens are 17th in the NFL in points per game. So they're not even in the top half of the league in scoring. And that's kind of like, okay, well, you got all these weapons and you're not getting in the end zone. And then if you look up NFL team yards per game, they're 13th, which you want to see them top 5. I mean, that's what they paid for, right? Yeah. But I agree with what you're saying. Next week, I think will tell us a lot more about this. But I did want to leave this up here for a second. And I'll let you read it out loud here for a second.
TJ Watt now has 14 career sacks against the Ravens. That is the second most by any player versus the Ravens all time, only trailing former Steeler James Harrison with 16. TJ Watt's going to destroy that record, dude.
Yeah.
He'll probably have 3 against them later this season.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. All right, so we talked a little bit about the Ravens win over the Bengals. Well, the sign of life has come. Joe Burrow can move again. Yes. He can move again. He has his mobility back. This is a huge deal. The Bengals are giving off the vibes that, it's time. It's week 5. Mm-hmm. They came out, they played, and now they're start rolling. I think I'm going to start T. Higgins next week. What do you think?
You should, but man, it'd be nice to have Ja'Marr Chase right now, because what a fucking game by Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase. They finally, like you said, Joe Burrow seems to be the only guy who looks like shit for 2 weeks and then is just like, oh, wait, yeah, no, I'm Joe Burrow again. Look at me, right? Passing for, 317 yards, 3 touchdowns. Over half of those yards, I think like 190 something, went to Ja'Marr Chase. And all 3 touchdowns went to Ja'Marr Chase. So Ja'Marr Chase, after a week of saying, I'm always fucking open, he tweets a picture, I think, of 7-Eleven or something like that, always open. And this is exactly what the Bengals needed. They won a game convincingly against a very tough Cardinals team who is not an easy win anymore. And they look good doing it, especially from Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase. As far as the Cardinals, Joshua Dobbs kept the game close, man, in the first half. Interceptions late, sealed the dub for the Bengals, though. Kyle, are the Bengals back?
I think the Bengals are nearly back. Joe Burrow, there's a little left to be desired, but it started coming back, and I think you feel really good. This is going to be a good week, and it just morale, like Bengals fans in the
Yeah.
locker room. You feel like you're back. You feel like things are going to get better moving forward, and I think the Bengals might be going into a bye week. I'm not sure, but um, for just this game, the Bengals should feel really good about it because this Arizona, we talked about it. This is a work trip. Arizona has proven that if you don't come, that they're going to stay close, and they are able to stay close and hang around. But like it says here, the Cardinals' margin for error is slim because they don't have the amount of talent to compensate for any mistakes. So
Yep.
Cardinals are winning and playing close football games, but they're doing it by playing a clean game, limiting the costly mistakes in the penalties, and not turning the ball over. Okay, and now you see like when a couple of those things go the other way, the Cardinals aren't able to win the game. Where some of these better teams can make a few mistakes, and that's what I was saying always about Denver was like once they turn the ball over, it's over
Yeah.
because they don't have the ability to overcome. The Cardinals feel like that too. Like they'll be in all the games, but if
Uh-huh.
they make any mistakes, they're not going to have the ability to overcome them moving forward.
Yeah, and unfortunately for the Bengals, they're not going into a bye week. They're going into a tough game at home though against the Seahawks, and then they go into a week 7 bye, but then they come out of it going to San Francisco to take the 49ers on. So the Bengals have a tough couple games ahead of them. Hopefully that bye week is enough to maybe get them over the 49ers. But the best 1-3 team won yesterday. They're 2-3 now. If they can get to 500, that game against the 49ers doesn't look too daunting.
Yeah. Well, it will be probably, you know what I mean? So they play the 49ers next?
No, they play the Seattle Seahawks on for week 6,
Oh, that's
go into their
better.
bye week 7, and then go into week 8 San
Got it.
Francisco.
Got it. And yeah, I'm excited to see if the Burrow thing is going to continue going. Check this out. For Burrow's 63-yard touchdown pass to Jamar Chase, that was the longest completion of his career based on air
Wow.
distance.
Wow.
58.1 yards. That's a bomb.
Yeah.
That is an absolute bomb.
Fucking
And
impressive. Only Joe Burrow, bro. Only Joe.
you have him on your fantasy team, right?
No, I don't. I have Lamar, so I fucked up.
Well, our next game is the Rams. The Rams were playing the Philadelphia Eagles, and I thought that the Rams would cover. The Eagles end up winning by 9.
hmm
What stood out to you about this game? It was on. We're in the 4 o'clock window right now, but what did you
Yeah.
like from this?
So I like that the Rams made this a game the first half. They scored, what was it, 10, 13? I forgot. I forget the score.
For 13-24,
So
right?
13 points in the first half for the Rams.
Or
And then
23-14. Sorry,
okay, so
23-14.
14 points for the Rams in the first half. They made it a game. I think they were only down 3 going into halftime. But regardless, they made it a game in the first half. In the second half, they had only 10 minutes of possession, 0 points. The Eagles defense locked the fuck down. They locked in the fuck down. And then on the other side, Hurts ran for a touchdown, threw for a touchdown. A.J. Brown had 127 receiving yards. Goddard scored a touchdown. Defense sacked Stafford 4 times, and the Eagles moved to 5-0. Rams still look decent, don't get me wrong, because they were able to make this a game in the first half. But this just proves that the Rams can't finish game, really, like at the end of the day, and they can't finish against the very top team in the NFC. So they're going to struggle against the 49ers. They're going to struggle against Seattle. They're going to struggle against any other NFC East teams they go against. And they're going to struggle against any AFC teams. Like, that's just, that is kind of how it goes. So the Rams impressed me in the first half, but the Eagles defense just, man, dude, with Jalen Carter added to this team, yes, they lost a couple of guys in the offseason, and that was one of my big questions coming into this season, how that defense was going to respond after losing a couple people and their coordinators. They haven't missed a step, but they haven't been as dominant as last season. And to be honest, in this NFC, not bad. Not bad, really. They're doing really well. All in all, if you're going to hold a team scoreless in the second half, no matter what the score says at the end of the day, you won this game like outright. Like there's no questions about the score for me.
Yeah, and the Eagles feel like a team that we talked about this, but they can get ready. They can get ready on the way. I use that example of like
Okay.
when you're in a hurry to go somewhere and your girlfriend just
Yeah.
grabs her makeup bag, get ready on the way. Sometimes you got to get ready on the way. It seems like the Eagles are talented enough to not only get ready along the way as far as learning how to play without their offense and defensive coordinators, but they can win on the way. And that's what's really impressive about this team. And like you said, the addition of Jalen Carter, it's really exciting to see, okay, well, what does this team look like? Because once you watch that Kelsey documentary, you're gonna have like more of appreciation for how much Jason Kelsey wants to win a Super Bowl this year and how much of a leader he is. And like that whole locker room, they want to win a Super Bowl for him. And man, they want it so bad, but it's crazy. That's what makes the NFL awesome, man. Is like the Niners want it that bad too. You know what I mean? And only one person gets to get it. And the Philadelphia Eagles look like one of those teams that could just be back in the Super Bowl and no one would question it, right? So hats off to the Eagles remaining as the one of two undefeated teams in the NFL right now with the 49ers, and that'll probably be what's looking like our NFC Championship anyway. But let's move on to two teams that probably won't be in the playoffs. This is the life of a Broncos fan.
Oh, no.
I don't even – guys, this sucks, man. I'll just say right off the bat, I've said it before, but what I really dislike about this game is a lot. Okay. Number one, I don't like that Nathaniel Hackett looks like the winner because it doesn't change what Sean Payton said. But I also got a problem with Sean Payton not being able to back up what he said. And it's like now it's on Bronco fans. Like we said it. You know what I mean? Like we said it tonight. And like, look, it probably was one of the worst coaching jobs in history. They couldn't even get the playoffs. They were number one in the NFL in pre-snap penalties. They misused their timeouts. Started week one against Seattle when they kicked a 65-yard game-winning field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 4 with 2 minutes left in the game. I mean, they made so many just what the errors. And now, you know, he looks like, oh, he's on the right side of this whole thing. And it's like, no, Denver still scored over 20, something that Nathaniel Hackett never did. They didn't have any pre-snap penalties, really. There was no false starts. There was no delay of games. There was no misusing timeouts. This is a defensive problem. Breece Hall able to run all over this Denver defense. And look, I know Breece Hall may be a top 5 running back, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's running the football. If they're playing the Denver Broncos, they can go for 150 yards. Devon Achane or Achan, like he ran for almost 200 yards and multiple touchdowns. And he was like not even, that's when the NFL even found out who he was. I knew who he was, but that's when like the public knew who he was. And then you see what he did last week, that little momentum game. Now he had like over 100 yards last week and multiple touchdowns. So, man, everybody gets kind of their like momentum game versus Denver. It feels like we catapult the Bears and do a 40-point win against the Commanders. And we catapulted, you know, Devon to running for 100 yards every game. And now it just seems like every team that plays us is really looking to capitalize on this lack of a defense. And it's really frustrating to watch because at the end of the day, as much as people are like, no, this is on Sean Payton, number one, this isn't his team. So until he makes up his own team, like then it's really not his team. Like, yes, he's not coaching. He's getting out coached, man. He's getting out coached. And that is the problem. It's not what he said. That's dumb. The problem is that Sean Payton, there's a juice missing from this Denver team. They are winning, and then they're just like going into the locker room. They're playing one half of football every single week. They come out and play really well. The Chicago game, it happened to be in the second half. But, man, Denver's
Yeah.
just not playing good enough right now to get the win. And I really, man, I believe that this team is not as bad as they look. But I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, well, who cares what coulda, shoulda, woulda? Eventually, if your team almost wins every week, that just means they lose every week. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I I don't know, man. I mean, we got a 4-day turnaround with Kansas City coming up, and like we haven't beaten them in 12, 13 matches straight. So,
It's rough.
I do think the game's going to be close. I don't know if we're going to win, but the line opened up at 10.5. I think
Oh.
Denver keeps it within 10.5.
So
We'll talk about that one
yeah.
later.
Yeah, and you put up, Brees Hall had 100 and whatever 77 yards or whatever in a score. Um, the Broncos defense, again, we've said it before, and I hate to bring this up again, but like they took just a massive step back. Even after like a Surtain interception, you guys had some hope there towards the end, but dude, it is I don't want to ask this in a way where I'm believing it, but is Russ the problem? You said this isn't Sean Payton's team, right? This isn't Sean Payton's team. Until he gets his team together, will he really be the Sean Payton that we know, with the Saints? You saw the scuffle, or not really a scuffle. It was just like a back and forth conversation with Russ there when he fumbled the ball during a 2-minute drill. Throw it out of bounds, he said, right? So does that seem to be the issue? Is there like a relationship issue between Russ and Sean Payton now? Like there's been reports about Russ not really being a good guy in the locker room. Marshawn Lynch went on a podcast, talked about it. And really a lot of people have said that Russ Wilson isn't very much a locker room guy. He's very much about Russ Wilson and being unlimited. But is there an issue there with Russ Wilson? And if so, if Sean Payton says, yo, I'll get rid of Randy Gregory, will he get rid of fucking Russ Wilson if he needs to?
I don't think so, because when you really watch the film of that game, Russell Wilson would have taken probably 10 sacks, 10 more sacks,
Yeah.
had he not been running away from pressure so well. He had such a good feel for pressure the entire day. He had maybe 2 seconds, then he had to run up or run out, or he was doing this half circle where I think Sean Payton coached him back into it, where you kind of spin like you're going that way and then you roll out the other way. He was doing a lot of, that kind of stuff, which was buying him time. And
Mm-hmm.
then look, he ends up fumbling the ball at the end of the game, but it was that exact type of movement in the pocket that even gave us a chance in the first place. To me, it's time to figure out what's going on with the offensive line, what's going on defense. We were able to get after the passer with Nick Bonito had early success. And then all of a sudden they make some adjustments and we don't see the Broncos really even rushing the passer anymore.
Yeah.
I just have questions about, the systematically what Denver's doing. I think they may be doing too much, because there were certain times where the Jets wide receivers were all by themselves. They were wide open. And
Yeah.
that only happens because a player doesn't know exactly where he has to be when he has to be there. That's something that great defenses, like the Super Bowl 50 Broncos defense, they only had 4 packages that whole season.
Yeah.
4. But they were just so good at what they did, and they were so good at disguising. That's all they needed. I think it might be possible that Vance Joseph has tried to put too many packages together, and it's confusing maybe at times. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, what's most confusing is that these are the same players that we had last year. I mean, that to me is just doesn't make any sense. Like, why can't they just have a group meeting and be like, hey, let's just go back to what we were doing last year? Like, why
Yeah.
is it this unobtainable thing with the same people, unless they all got worse somehow in 1
And
week or 1 year?
and I think you're onto something there, because we've seen head coaches, offensive guys, really, or mostly offensive head coaches who try to put their system and mold it around a quarterback versus molding your system around a quarterback. So maybe Vance Joseph is doing something with this defense where he's like, this scheme will work because of the players we have instead of these players will work around what I build around them. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to force something into this defense that the defense is just like you said, confused. Like, what are we doing? Like, this isn't working, and that might be it.
Yeah, and on Brees Hall's big touchdown drive, that was actually a one-play drive. The first play was a handoff, and Brees Hall ran it for like 70 yards. And
Yeah.
Kareem Jackson came up to try to make a hit, and man, he just looked old. You know what I mean? Like he looked, he
Yeah.
did. Like Brees Hall
I
just
know.
like made him look like an old man. And I love
Yeah.
Kareem Jackson. He's the only dog on defense. I've said that before. But man, if our only dog on defense is an aging safety that's at the latter part of his career, then you
That's
know
rough.
it is, man. But I'm excited
Yeah.
about the quick turnaround. Zach Wilson did throw an interception late in the game that gave Denver a chance to drive down and kick a game-tying field goal. Unfortunately, Russell Wilson fumbled the ball. It sucks. It stings. They turned it into a touchdown, so the score ended up looking a little bit worse.
Yeah.
But let it look worse. Let the line inflate for Chiefs next week. I got Denver with a major upset to get back on
Woo!
track. That is the only thing that can change Denver. If they can beat the Chiefs, the curse is lifted. And that is what we are under right now. So definitely tune into that later on the week. We're going to move on to the team we're going to play, the Kansas City Chiefs. And they got a win in Minnesota. Taylor Swift didn't make it out to Minnesota for this game. Travis
Nope.
Kelce got hurt. I
Yep.
don't know if you want to build a connection. I won't. But I I think the Chiefs were able to get a win after it felt like a loss, but they beat the Jets. But it felt like a loss because he was outperformed by Zach Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chiefs able to get a win, not like a crazy high scoring, oh, the Chiefs are back, but they did enough to beat a team that was playing probably good football at home. What do you think about this one?
I'm gonna be honest, man. This is another not so convincing win by the Chiefs. The Chiefs were absolutely bailed out by their defense this game. The Vikings getting close there to tying it in the fourth quarter. Kirk Cousins, luckily for the Chiefs, Justin Jefferson was out, and Kirk Cousins had to do with Addison, with their rookie Addison, and with what's his name, the tight end from Detroit. Yeah, you know,
PJ Hawkinson.
Hawkinson, yeah. So he had to try to get something going with those guys. But Mahomes and the defense luckily were able to escape with a win in Minnesota. The defense is absolutely like something Mahomes and this offense can kind of like rely on now. But Mahomes still had 281 yards, 2 touchdowns. Pacheco rushed for a score. Kelce caught a touchdown but got hurt there. Defense had the 3 sacks, and with the important one coming at the end of the game, 4 seconds left, they sacked Kirk Cousins. That's what this defense is doing this year for the Chiefs. Cousins still had a very decent game, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns. The rookie, Addison, had a touchdown, 64 receiving yards. But the big story, I think, out of this, outside of Mahomes winning, outside of Taylor Swift and Kelce, Justin Jefferson, injury. He's already, I think, ruled out for next week against the Bears. But how long can this go? You know what I mean? Like, how long can he go? Can the Vikings go without Justin Jefferson? And is this something that Jefferson might look at and be like, you know what? I'm just going to sit out the rest of the season. I don't know.
What?
Something like that. I don't know. Something like that.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Something where he wants to because he was not complaining, but he was frustrated about his usage in this offense. So I don't know, man. We'll see.
Yeah, it's always terrible when you're losing. You know what I mean? And really, right now, the Vikings aren't getting W's. I do think we'll see Justin Jefferson because he's still a young receiver that wants to. Yeah, he's still building his resume. I mean, he doesn't need to, but I think he loves football too much to sit out. Usually, people this good at football are in love with football, and not all the time, but I don't see him sitting out, but maybe, I wonder, depending on how their bye week, maybe run, him to the bench for maybe 2 weeks, and they go into a bye week and he comes back that next week.
Yeah.
Something like that. But the Chiefs defensively have done a pretty good job of, holding up their end of the bargain this season. And here from Next Gen Stats, the Chiefs blitzed on 48% of dropbacks against the Vikings, the unit's highest blitz rate in a game since 2022.
Wow.
So you got the Chiefs who are playing aggressive on defense. And I've said it before, but I'm going to ask you, is this the best defense Patrick Mahomes has ever played with?
I think so, man. And I've always been, if you've watched this only football show for all of last season coming into this season and what we've done, I've always been a proponent of the NFL is moving towards let's stick with offensive weapons, let's get some high scoring, and that's what's really going to kill defenses, and don't really necessarily invest in defenses that heavily. Sure, maybe some defensive ends, but man, this defense is the best one the Chiefs have had, because look what happened last year in the Super Bowl. Chiefs defense was non-existent, as well as the Eagles, and defenses in general have been kind of non-existent as far as points scored relative to the NFL as a whole a decade and a half ago, right? So this is the best defense the Chiefs have had, and like I said, the Chiefs offense and Mahomes can really rely on this defense now and can really be like, you know what, even if we don't have the best game as a Chiefs team like we have had in recent years, this defense can come up with a late game sack, late game interception. They can really solidify this team as a whole and get us a win if we need it.
Absolutely. And the next game we thought was going to be the game of the week for sure. This next game was
year probably too.
Potentially the game of the year.
Yeah.
This was, two of the top 3 teams in the NFC playing, and now it sounds dumb that we were saying that, because maybe it's one top 1 team and a top 7 team. We're not sure, but the San Francisco 49ers are just on another level. They are beating the crap out of people, and I'm ready to officially announce that, in case you didn't realize it, in case you're not on the bandwagon, it's time to get on, because Brock Purdy has emerged as a top-tier quarterback in the NFL, and There's nothing anybody can say to talk me out of it. I don't care if it looks boring. I don't care what you think. I saw him roll out. I saw him make throws. He sees the field in a way that only elite quarterbacks do. And I'm ready to say that he is a top-tier quarterback in the NFL, and he looks the least amount like a top-tier quarterback in the NFL. If you look at the way he looks, you know what I mean? Like, if you had to put him Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, even Joe Burrow, and then Brock Purdy, and be like, pick the one that's
the guy
an
who
all-star.
looks like a top quarterback.
Yeah, no one's going up to Brock Purdy and be like, I'm going to ride with Brock. You know what I mean? But I love that about him. It's a true underdog story, and I think the San Francisco should be the favorites to win the Super Bowl, maybe even after that.
2 words for this game in the San Francisco 49ers. Absolute domination. That's what this game was for the 49ers. Absolute domination. You said it. Brock Purdy looked like a fucking MVP caliber type of quarterback. CMC rushed for a touchdown in his 14th straight game. Brock Purdy passed for 252 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 of those to Kittle, which were his only catches, by the way. Kittle caught 3 passes, all touchdowns. Absolute domination, dude. It was insane, and absolute domination on the defense. Intercepted Dak 3 times, sacked him 4 times, held Tony Pollard and whatever other running back was back there to 57 rush yards. The Cowboys looked like dog shit compared to this 49ers team, and Dak Prescott looked like the Dak Prescott of old. And we had a discussion about this, right? Are we going to sell stock on the Cowboys? Are we not going to sell it? Is it too early? Who have the Cowboys beaten? The Jets, the Giants, and who else? I forgot who else they beat.
One more team I'm trying to remember.
Because they have 3 wins. They're 3-2 now because they lost to Arizona.
Oh, they lost to Arizona.
Yeah, did they beat the Seahawks? Is that? I don't think that's
not
right.
The Seahawks.
I'm going to look it up right now, but
I'll look it up.
Yeah, the Cowboys have not beaten anybody, really, when you look at it. But on the flip side, the 49ers really haven't beaten anybody either. I mean, this is probably the one game that we all looked at and were like, this is really going to be a measuring stick type of game, right? They beat the New England Patriots. Yeah. So the Cowboys really haven't beat anybody. But again, who have the 49ers beat, Kyle? Do you know who the 49ers have beaten?
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, everyone,
everybody.
Right? 5-0. But let's look at that schedule for 5-0 for the 49ers, even though they have a great team. Pittsburgh Steelers, the Rams, the Giants, the Cardinals, and now the Cowboys. Both these teams in the NFC look fucking phenomenal, and yet they really haven't beaten teams that are good. So, which team are we buying the stock on? We're looking at the 49ers and being like, Super Bowl. We're looking at the Cowboys now, and my instant reaction was sell. Sell on Dak. The only difference is Dak and the Cowboys have proven that they're dog shit in the playoffs. And yet the 49ers with Jimmy G and now an MVP type caliber who went to the NFC Championship last year, Brock Purdy, look a lot better. So if you're asking me, yeah, both of these teams haven't really beaten anybody, but who are you taking? I'm still taking the 49ers all day, man. It's that easy. And looking at schedules for the Cowboys, week 6 through 12, they got the Chargers, the Rams, the Eagles, the Giants, the Panthers, and the Commanders. What do you think they go there? Do they beat the Chargers? Probably not. Do they beat the Rams? Yeah. Eagles? No way. Giants?
So you don't think the Cowboys
yes.
can beat the Chargers?
No, I think the Chargers will beat them. In these next 6 games, they go 3-3, and then look at the schedule week 13 through 18. The Seahawks, the Eagles, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Lions, and they end the year with the Commanders. They're going 1-5 at that last 6-game stretch.
1-5?
1-5. And they're maybe going 3-3, 6 through 12. So if you're looking at them, they're going, 6-11 the rest of the season by my count? This is going to be a tough year for the Cowboys. They had a dominant defense.
I'm sorry. I can't disagree with you more. This is awesome. This is so
rough.
Funny. You're
that's
like,
rough.
So based on my calculations, 4-14?
Look at the schedule, dude. Look at the schedule and look who the Cowboys have played and tell me that I'm crazy.
No, I do think it's crazy. The Cowboys, their floor is at 8 wins. Their floor has got to be at least 8 wins.
Do they beat the Chargers?
Yeah.
Do they beat the Rams?
Yes.
Do they beat the Eagles?
No.
Do they beat the Giants?
Yes.
Do they beat the Panthers?
Yes.
Yes. Do they beat the Commanders?
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know about that one.
Maybe they take an L there.
All right. Seahawks, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, Lions? You're telling me they get 1 win in those 5 games?
Yeah, they're getting it more than 1.
Against
They're probably gonna win the home games. So are they playing Miami at home?
I don't know. I don't know exactly. Let me double check here. Let me see exactly who they play at home.
I mean, the Dolphins just lost to the Jags and they lost to the Bills. And yeah, I mean, all those teams sound really difficult, but so do Cowboys when you're on their record saying Cowboys. You're like, it's not like, the Cowboys have now become a team that no one fears. I don't think so. I mean, Micah Parsons is still the scariest defensive player in the NFL, pretty much. The Cowboys
was shut down by the 49ers offense, though.
But I think the 49ers are a really bad measuring stick game when it comes to the other teams. Because I really think the 49ers are so far ahead of the second best team that it kind of just looks bad. And what if Dallas just had a bad game? Now you're throwing it all away because of one bad game.
You're right. This can be one of those overreactions that we were talking about earlier. 100%. But dude, 7 wins for the Cowboys does not seem too insane for me, at least I think, when you look at the landscape.
That's fair. And can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, okay. So that brings us to our Monday night football game that we were just streaming.
Hmm.
The Green Bay Packers and the Raiders. It was a pretty good game. I think so. The Packers came up short. We did our instant reaction video on it.
Hmm.
I don't know if you want to talk about that game at all.
Yeah, we can, man. The Packers lost there at the end. I love the aggressiveness from Love, but they lost 17-13 when they could have won the game after the defense had kept the Raiders there to a very long field goal by Carlson, who had already missed one earlier in the game. Fuck you, Carlson. You're on my fantasy squad. Anyway, I love the aggressiveness there to throw it at the corner of the end zone there by Love to Watson. It was a very 50-50 ball, I think. And like you said, if Watson had just played a little defense on that pass, it would have probably gone in the way of the Packers. But instead, he kind of was waiting for the ball to come to him. And I think it was Peterson or somebody else who was able to intercept that ball. The Raiders, on the other hand, Jimmy G had an okay game. But like I said, the Raiders win ugly. They lose ugly. I think Raiders fans and the Raiders in general should be like, woo, we got away with one. We definitely got away with one here against the Packers. I had the Packers winning. Unfortunately, they lost. Actually, fortunately. Why am I giving them unfortunately for the Packers? Fortunately, they lost. But for my prediction, I had them winning. The Raiders didn't look great. The Packers didn't look great. But I love the aggressiveness from Love. I think that's just going to help his development in the future.
Yeah, and Jordan Love not moving in the right direction for the Packers, and it's just, we talked about not trying to overreact. It is an overreaction type of Monday.
Yep.
But the
I'm
last
right.
two the last 2 weeks just haven't been going well for Jordan Love. And the question is, are they going to be able to finally get things rolling at some point? Is this offense going to play a complete game? You saw against Detroit, they kind of came to life in the second half. And then you saw the offense at times today just get really stagnant. I do
Mm-hmm.
want to shout out that the Raiders defense did come through today and play good. I don't want to take that away.
Yeah.
But the Packers have yet, in my opinion, to play a complete football game. And man, I mean, even with Christian Watson, like, he was locked up all day by Marcus Peters. But still, like, you got to get some separation. You got to be able to come out and give your quarterback a chance. And I think the ultimate question, if you're a Packer fan at this point, and I'll ask you this, do the Packer fans have to accept that this is a transition year?
Yeah, and they've done it before. They've done it with Aaron Rodgers. They hated him when he started. We said this during the stream. They hated him his first year when he actually was a starter. They were trying to get him. They were trying to get him out of town. If I remember correctly, his first year starting, they hated Rodgers.
Yeah.
And look how quickly they turned around after he became a consistent quarterback, won them a Super Bowl, and was still and will go into the Hall of Fame as a Packer. Don't get it twisted, man. He's not going to go in as a fucking Jet. I'll tell you that much. He's going to go in as a Packer. Packers fans should be very grateful, and they should be very patient again with Jordan Love. Now, can lightning strike 3 times? Who knows? But I think the patience from the Packers fans with Favre and then with Rodgers and now with Love, they should be able to be like, you know what? This is a transition year 100%. He's being aggressive. He's one for 2 in fourth quarter drives for a win. Let's just kind of try to let this train roll on its own and develop. And we have a good coach. Let's just see how it goes. I don't think they should panic. I really don't think they should panic.
And for the Raiders, you're getting a lot of people coming in saying Josh McDaniels needs to take off the training wheels, and we need to see him be a little more aggressive. And like that famous press conference, you play to win. You play to win the game.
The game.
And that is it. And I got to say, this is one of those things I wasn't thinking, but once I saw it, I was like, this is actually a really good point. It doesn't feel like Josh McDaniels is really, out there playing like his job depends on it. And it may
Yeah.
very well depend on it. He's in his third year with the Raiders, and Josh McDaniels is just, there's still nothing special. It's like, how long do
Nope.
you need? When is the special going to start? When is, the Jimmy Garoppolo decision instead of Derek Carr going to pay off? And it sounds like I'm talking about a loss here. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about the Raiders after a win.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because it was, in fact, a pretty ugly win. And yeah, they found a way to win it. But at the end of the day, this isn't the kind of game that is going to make you feel confident one way or another. And I think the Packers' next game will be in Denver, and they're going to have a ton of time to rest and get ready for it. And then, not sure about the Raiders, but the Packers, if they don't win next week, all of a sudden they're 2-4, and things are getting away from them quickly. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. For
So
sure.
yeah, it was a good performance by the Raiders. I mean, they won at home, but there's definitely a lot left to be desired from both of these teams.
100% could not agree with you more, Kyle. And that was our Week 5 NFL recap. Kyle, you ready to go into our next segment?
I don't know, am I?
Yo, you better be. Running back of the week, Kyle. I hope you have one ready because I think I've got one or two. Let me double check. I got two.
Okay.
Do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
You go first.
All right. So my first running back of the week, and again, we're doing this because running backs have just gotten a shit time over the past off season. So we're trying to highlight running backs every week here on Only Football. My first running back of the week is Travis Etienne in London. 26 carries, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions, 48 yards for 184 total yards on the day, and also a dub against the Bills. Travis Etienne seemed almost invisible this season with the Jags, and the Jags were struggling early. But if you get him going, this is what happens. You get a dub, and Travis Etienne runs all over a Bills defense that was very good. They did lose a couple players to injury during the game, but they did very, very well. But Travis Etienne is my first running back of the week.
All right. I got Zach Moss. You go into the week and you Jonathan Taylor is going to be playing, and then all this drama was built up, and then all you hear is that Jonathan Taylor's like, I'm just excited to play with my teammates again, and then one day later his contract is revealed, and you're thinking, well, that is the end of the Zach Moss era, and Zach Moss takes over this game, and Zach Moss is the best running back in this game. I love it. He knew that with this news that his job or his snaps at a minimum were at stake, and he went out and proved to the Colts. I don't want to say that they made the wrong choice because I'm pro paying Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
But they proved, I don't know, he proved that maybe they could get a bye without him. I don't know. Like he did what you're not supposed to do right now, with the way the market is. He definitely didn't do any of these running backs trying to, get a new contract any favors by balling out, but it's an underdog story. So I love it. Zach Moss.
I love it. And my second running back of the week is going to go to a rookie on the Dolphins. You may have heard about him.
Yes,
Devin Achane, 11 carries, 151 yards, and a score for an average of 13.73 yards per rush. Devon Achane is him. He is him, and it's crazy because he's one of the fastest guys in Miami. After they have like 4 or 5 of the fastest people in the NFL. He had, I think, the record for fastest run in that game, and then he was immediately beaten by Tyreek Hill in like a few plays later. So it's so funny to see this, but Devin Achane gonna look for a huge payday as long as he keeps catching balls too, as long as he starts being a huge factor in the receiving game too. I think he's ready for a big payday soon. Well, not soon. He's still on his rookie contract, but in the coming years, barring any injuries, he might be a top running back in the NFL in the future.
I love that one. And I want to do an honorable mention to DeAndre Swift, just how he has been playing through the first 5 weeks, he may be the NFL's leading rusher this year. So honorable mention to him, but I have to do it again. Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
He continues to prove that he is on top of the list of all the running backs in the NFL. He's checked all the boxes, and he just set a career high last week against the Cardinals with 4 touchdowns, and we talked about that performance. But the reason he's on the list this week is because he had a touchdown that gave him a touchdown in, I believe, 16 straight games, something around there. So, man, he's breaking records. This guy gets a touchdown every time the 49ers play for almost an entire year. This guy's different. He deserves to be on the list every week.
Absolutely. CMC is just a savage NFL player. And, you know, you look at all those few years he spent in Carolina and you're like, man, I wonder if he was on the 49ers, how much of a future Hall of Famer he'd be even more. You know what I mean? Like
I do.
And with the injuries too. But yeah, that's awesome. All right. Let's move into our next segment. Unless you got something else, Kyle.
Nope, that's all I got.
All right, let's go.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
Top 5. Kyle and I are giving you our top 5 power rankings. Also, Kyle, I think maybe in the future, maybe not this episode, but we should also give our bottom 5.
Oh,
maybe, you know,
feelings are going to get hurt.
Feelings will get hurt, but to be honest, if you know me, I don't give a shit. Let's go into our top 5. Kyle, I think you started off last week, so I will start off this week at number 5. For me, making their first appearance this year on our top 5. I've got the Detroit Lions making their appearance on top 5 after I said they were going to go on a tear. They beat the Packers on Thursday Night Football. They pretty much destroyed the Panthers during week 5. The Lions are going on a tear. I think they're staying on the top 5 for the rest of the season. Number 5 for me is Lions.
Respect it. Number 5, I got the Chiefs. The Chiefs I had like on the fringe of getting in, but they're just kind of quietly winning their football games. They went into Minnesota and got a win. They beat the Jets in an ugly win, but it's important to be able to have an ugly game and still win. That's a sign that, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the best in the NFL, so he's got this team in my top 5.
I love how you said Patrick Mahomes is the best in the NFL, so I guess,
you can't be like, he's the best quarterback of all time. He's not in my top 5. Yeah. Number 5.
And I've got the Chiefs actually at 4, just because of their, what they've done throughout the season. I wanted to bring them down a little bit more, but I was like, you know what? The Lions are making an appearance here. I think the Chiefs are still better than the Lions. In terms of, longevity, what they've done in the past season. But even now, I still think they're number 4 in my top 5. Kyle, who do you have at number 4?
I got the Buffalo Bills.
Ooh.
I know the Bills are coming off a loss, but I think it's the time zone thing, man. I'm really not going to read into it too much. One team didn't have to, reset their circadian rhythm in 20 hours. And they still played a close game. Like, Stephon Diggs had a big game. This Buffalo team is going to be a really difficult team to play week in and week out. They come in at number 4, just a little bit better than the Chiefs. And that is my last AFC team in the top 5. Surprising.
Oh, wow. I love it. All right, for number 3, for me, coming in at number 3, again, making their first appearance, I think, at least from my top 5, I've got the Dolphins at number 3. They come off a loss against Buffalo, and then they absolutely devour the Giants. They take advantage of that shitty offensive line. They take advantage of the Giants just being a bad team, and they do exactly what you need to do to bad teams, man. You beat them by 2 score. They put up 31. I thought they would put up at least 35, but they still put up 30 points. They do exactly what they need to do to bad teams, and that's why I get the Dolphins are at number 3. It's going to be a back and forth, though, I think, with the Dolphins. It's going to be tough for them to stay in my top 5, I think, as far as an AFC team.
Yeah, definitely. Number 3, I got the Detroit Lions.
Woo!
Coming in. It's time to just give this team their flowers. They're a powerhouse. They're dominant on defense. They are physical up front. They have one of the best O-lines in the NFL. They have a quarterback playing at a top 10 level now for his second year straight, maybe top 5 if you really break down the stats and look at it and get out of your head that Jared Goff is average. You might even see that he might be top 5 right now. Well, the Detroit Lions are top 5 right now for sure. And Dan Campbell's got this team playing really competitive. They look like they're having fun. Aiden Hutchinson looks like one of the best defensive players in the NFL. This Detroit team looks like they're made of the stuff that it takes to go to the Super Bowl. It's in their DNA. They have it. They could be like the Bengals 2 years ago. This might be the last couple of weeks we get away with this being a hot take. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I get it. Lions making their first appearance in our top 5 in the last season and a half. I love it. The Lions are coming up. Number 2 for me, and I think it might be number 2 for you. I've got the Philadelphia Eagles at number 2. Yep. So we both got the Eagles at number 2. They just beat the Rams. They're still 5-0. I think you have to respect the 5-0. No matter how not as dominant they are as they were last year, they're 5-0, man. They're NFC champion. You know, they're reigning NFC champs. You got to give them their flowers too for continuing this domination. The Eagles soon might be something like the Chiefs have been the last few years, where we're so bored of the Eagles being so good that we just say, yeah, the Eagles are good, so they're in my top 5, and yeah, you know what I mean? So
I am willing to adjust the Eagles to number 1. It's not like, there's nothing the Eagles can do.
Yeah.
I do respect the Eagles, but they are going through those kind of growing pains right now. But once we get into November, if things are really rolling, it's going to be really difficult to, put 1 at, unless the 49ers lose a couple of games. It's going to be real hard. I think the 49ers could easily go 16-1. And that one loss may be because they benched their starters week 18.
So,
because Kyle Shanahan doesn't give a shit about that.
That's true. So, at number 1, let's say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3.
Broncos.
49.
They're the best team in the NFL, and I don't care who tells you otherwise. Russell Wilson is number 1 in the NFL in touchdown to interception ratio. They had 300.
So the 49ers are the number 1 team for both Kyle and I, and it's just how dominating they've been. Again, they beat the Cowboys convincingly. I don't know what that says.
49ers, number 1. Eagle. You don't see my list? 49ers, Eagles.
49ers, Eagles, Detroit, Buffalo, Chiefs. I love it. 49ers are number 1.
Just so you know, I wasn't copying your answers because we had the same.
Yeah, sure. All right. Anyway, 49ers beat the brakes off the fucking Cowboys. They've beaten the brakes off all the teams they've played. Easy number 1. The only other 5-0 team outside of the Eagles that are worth a damn. Probably because they are the only other team that are 5-0 outside of the Eagles. So, number 1, Brock Purdy looks like a stud. CMC is still a stud. George Kittle is the top tight end in the NFL. This defense is amazing. Kyle, did I miss something? Kyle?
Brock Purdy's good looking, and his dad goes to all of his games, and that's his secret recipe.
And he has a roommate, even though he makes almost $1 million a year. But yeah, whatever.
Does he really have a roommate?
He does. What the
He's
fuck
like,
kind of shit is that?
He's like, remember in Grandpa's Boy where he's like, did you tell your roommates I was coming? And he's like, you mean your parents? He's like, keep it down. I told my roommates you'd be here. You mean your parents?
You mean your parents?
Yeah, whatever. Same thing.
I love it. Yeah, man. He has a roommate and he's somehow engaged, but he's living in San Francisco off $800,000+ a year and still needs a roommate. I don't get it. I don't fucking get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. That is.
I was gonna say I wish I had those problems.
I saw a random Twitter video of him like driving like just in the streets of California in like a pickup truck, and like someone zooms in and you can see him in the rear view in his mirror, and you can see him just a normal guy with a quiet, like his truck wasn't like with rims or anything, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, I could never. I would have a Rolls Royce day one.
Dude, I'd be balling the fuck out. But hey, that's just me. I come from poverty, so I get it.
Yeah. I got you.
Well, that was our top five.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
All right, Kyle, that is the end of this episode, but we cannot end this episode without the little, if you guys could see here, the little chives with Kyle, if you will. Kyle, chives, what do you got for us?
All right, so as you guys know, I've been talking about how good it is to move on really fast after a win. When the season came out, the schedule was released. The number one game I was looking the most forward to was the opportunity to take on the Chiefs. And I said at 12, 13 win straight. Let me say this. Kansas City has won 15 straight games against Denver and open up as double-digit favorites at Arrowhead. This is going to be the game that you guys are going to see. The Denver Broncos curse is going to be broken. Denver is going to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead because they can't win at home. So they're going to win in Arrowhead. And the curse will be broken. And that game, guys, that is going to be here in 2 days and a wake up.
Wow. And that's
what they say in
Kyle.
prison. That's what they say in prison. They say 2 days and a wake up instead of 3 days because it sounds better, to say like, 2 days and a wake up.
And how does Kyle know that they say that in prison? From experience. Thank you guys so much. That was the Chives with Kyle. And that was our episode, our NFL Week 5 recap, along with our top 5 and running backs of the week. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, who was in the comments. Tyler Fink, I didn't forget about you, man. Thank you for tuning in to this and the live stream at the end. We appreciate you guys. Cheers to everybody. And go follow us at Star6 Media on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Facebook, and at _Star6 Media on Twitter. You could follow me on Twitter at @andnowrick. Kyle, where can they follow you on Twitter?
You can follow me at FTBLONLYPODCAST, Football Only Podcast.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I hope you guys enjoyed
Did you
the
see
episode.
my Appleseed? You can follow me at Johnny Appleseed.
What the hell is that?
That's where you guys can follow me. No, I'm using Camo and it has a template and I gotta put my name there, but that's how I'm gonna do it. Isn't that cool?
That is kind of cool. I like that. I like that. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on anything, please subscribe. Please subscribe. We do live streams of all the primetime games, all of NFL Sunday. We do our shows on Mondays and Wednesdays. Kyle even does some extra content, Only Football with Kyle. We're going to be doing fantasy stuff soon. Please subscribe, grow the channel, and tell your friends and family and your coworkers and fucking people, random people on the street. Fuck it. Tell them too.
Tell them. And my uncle told me today, I don't know why he keeps trying to discourage me, but he keeps telling me, he's like, if you're not an ex-athlete, you're going to have to do this for like 20 years before anyone knows who you are.
Oh my God.
Prove them wrong. Let's see if we can do this in 2 years. Prove them wrong.
We're about 170, 165 followers away on YouTube, subscribers away on YouTube from really, monetizing this YouTube page. So I think we're close, Kyle. I think we're fucking close.
We are. And it's because of you guys. So keep helping us out. Share this with people. If you enjoy it, just, tell them that you enjoy it. Be honest. We really appreciate that because we don't have any real advertising going on right now. So it's really you guys. And sometimes we get lucky, people stumble in, but you guys are the main thing keeping us going.
Yeah, thank you all to you guys. Again, tell everybody about Only Football. Kyle and I are back. Season 2 of Only Football, 2023 NFL season.
Don't forget, I'll be in Jacksonville on the field on Sunday.
Let's go.
On the field.
All the content.
On the
all
field.
the content
all
in
the
Jacksonville, baby. All right, Kyle.
I'm going to meet Trevor Lawrence.
We're going to get Trevor Lawrence on this podcast. All right, Kyle. I'll see you next time, buddy.
All right, brother. See ya.
See ya.